Today I have a very special guest joining the show, and I'm glad he actually could come on. Now, he's a co-founder of Home Depot, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons and Atlanta United, community man, and he's the author of his new book, Good Company. I would like to welcome to the HD Connection, Mr. Arthur Blank. Mr. Blank, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Harry. It's always good to see you, and trust your family as well, wife and children and everybody else. And as I said a few minutes ago before we got on air, you look like you could play tomorrow morning if we needed you. So
I work out 5 days a week, but
okay,
Mr.
well,
Blank,
good.
I'm not playing anymore, Mr. Blank. I'm
Okay,
done. I'm done.
Stay tuned up. So our new head coach knows of you and used to coach you. So, and he had nothing but really good things to say about you when you were up in Tennessee. So, and I have nothing good things to say about you, all good things to say about you when you were here in Atlanta with us. So thank you for not only your play, but all of your leadership, all of what you did for the community. There was never, I will say this to all your listeners, there was never anything in the community where we needed to get a player where Harry was not the first person in line to help out in some variety of ways. So that's near and dear to my heart, and you're a very special person. So it's a privilege to spend a few minutes with you for me.
Thank you, Mr. B. And I'm glad you brought up the community, because you do a lot for the community. That includes devoting a lot of your time, being a shoulder that a lot of people can lean on, donating, echoing those principles throughout your business as well. In your book, Good Company, one of your core values that you mentioned was giving back to others. Why is giving back so important to you?
Well, I think, Harry, as you get older, and sometimes younger people don't fully realize this, and that's okay because it comes with age, but you realize that, we have a lot of reasons we're on the face of the earth. One is obviously to do well as a human being, to have families, to support families, support our children, to make sure that we, provide for the next generation. Children represent 1/3 of our population of the country and 100% of our future, so they're very important. I think when you have the kind of success and the opportunities that I've had, it's given me another opportunity to find purpose beyond myself and beyond just my family. And I have 6 children and 6 grandchildren. You know a lot of them. And a way to find is to be connected to community and understand that, running a successful, profitable business, whether it be a football team or a soccer team or a golf retailer, with a leading golf retailer today in the country, and our guest ranches are number 1 and number 2 in the United States. So, it's one thing to run a profitable business. It's also equally important to be connected to the community, connected to others that are less advantaged than we are, and to take them under our wing and give them support and give them training and guidance and whatever else that we can do that's appropriate. So we find that over time, people, I think, look back over their lives and they say, what's the purpose of life? You look at the book by Viktor Frankl, which talks about the meaning of life, and you realize that passion for humanity, passion for others beyond yourself is very, very important. It's something that you've lived by. I mean, somewhere in your childhood, you got that from your parents or from your siblings or from, other relatives, or you just developed it yourself, because you were always the kind of player and the kind of person who would find ways to give back to others. And I think that in giving back to others, you always find that, whatever you give to others comes back to you many-fold over. So you always feel, a greater sense of fulfillment that I've helped other people. I've helped them, through some trauma in their lives or some opportunity in their life, whatever it may be. So that's where I'm spending a lot of my time today. I'm still involved with all the strategy for all of our businesses, but we have a great leadership team and they help run all of our businesses today. And it gives me time to work on our foundation. And I'm going to ramp up our grant making substantially in the next 10 years. And I've said 95% of my estate's going to go through our family foundation, and that hasn't changed, and that'll be the case. So we look forward to, to making that happen. So.
That's big. I like that. That's one of the things I love about you, Mr. Blank. Now, during last season, I had the opportunity to moderate a panel with players from the Falcons organization as well as the Lions organization. And we had a chance to touch on topics related to social injustices, voting, how both teams came together to fight for what's right. Now, one of the main discussions that actually came up in those meetings were people of your stature, being an NFL owner, MLS owner, standing up and supporting the cause and players with gratitude, right? Now, you could have sat back, you could have relaxed, but you didn't. You listened and you responded. You were vocal, you stood behind your players and your staff 100%. Being a former player, I can tell you that means a lot. What made you do it?
Well, I think, I'm privileged to serve on the Social Action Committee at a national level, which is 5 owners and 5 current players and players coalition members and the union, et cetera. So I do that. And obviously here in Atlanta, our players are very active. We have 12, 13 players are very active in the Falcons community work. And I think what we've constantly heard from players, not just myself, but others, throughout the league, is that they wanted to see ownership that was not, generally just supporting them, supporting these communities' concerns, whether it be, criminal justice reform or, social equity and social balancing, voter rights, voter registration, et cetera, all of those things. They wanted to see us in the ring alongside the players and shoulder to shoulder with the players. So that we recognize these are problems that we all have to face. We all have to be part of the solution. And so, for me, it came very, very naturally to, get lined up with our players and say, let's do these things together. We're certainly better as a group than as one. We have access and resources to things that players don't. Players have access and resources to things that we don't. So I think when you have one voice, and it's really interesting because many people have said since that period of time when these became issues, and since the Players Association, the NFL, each individual club and league-wide are working together, that the relationship between the owners and the players and the players union has never been better. And I think it's an example of when you focus on others and focus on how do you help others, it comes back to serve you in a whole variety of ways that are very meaningful. So, it's great to do that. It's great to work with our players. It's great for them to see us as caring about the same things. And Harry, in many cases, our players personally have moved beyond the communities that they were raised in, where a lot of these issues were ones they dealt with every day. They still deal with them, but maybe to a less extent. But our players have very long memories. I mean, they remember the communities they came up with, and they remember what their parents went through, what their siblings went through, what their grandparents went through. So it's a way for them to not only do the right thing, but to honor, the traditions and the memories of those people that are important to them in their lives. And it's important for us as Americans, whatever color it may be, brown, black, whatever it may be, white, whatever other colors there are. It's important that we do line up shoulder to shoulder, and we recognize these as not being issues that are Democratic or Republican, but they're issues of America, and they're ones that we have to take more ownership of, acknowledge the reality of what we're living with. I was fortunate, I think you may even know this, I was very close to John Lewis before he, for many, many years, obviously passed away this last year, and still very close to Andy Young, who was on our board for the Falcons when he used to play for us. And they both have said the same thing, in the case of John before he passed away, was that, there's been a lot of progress made. We should acknowledge the progress since the 50s and 60s that we were involved in. There's been great progress made. Having said that, the reality is that while there's progress been made, there's a very long way to go. And that, we have to continue to press, we have to continue to make sure our voices are heard. And as John Lewis would always say, the most powerful nonviolent form of demonstration is voting. I mean, if you want to change vote, change who's in office locally in your city and your community and, statewide, nationally, you have to vote, you have to register, you have to vote. So I think you saw that in this last national election. And you saw that certainly in the state of Georgia, where we had, unthought of numbers turning out to vote. I give it great credit people like Stacey Abrams and others who got folks, to step out and vote. So anyway, all that connection is very, very important to us, and we want to be supportive of our players in every way we can. When it comes, as you well know, as an owner, there's not much you really can do about what happens on the field. You hire the best coaching staff, you have the best facilities, you spend up to the salary cap if you can figure out a way to spend over it, which we've creatively done over the years, cash over cap. You do everything you can to create a winning environment. But at the end of the day, it is up to the coaches and players. An owner becomes a fan who cares deeply about what's going on the field. But the community work is work that we don't have 11 people on the other side of the line trying to defend something or score points on us. So one of the beauties that I've seen is that you've got a couple thousand players now in the NFL that are working together. You have 32 ownership groups that are working together. And you have the NFL league office that is working together. And you have the union offices that are working together as well. So when you have all that combination and that power, you're going to make progress. And we're making progress. Still work to be done.
That's why you're one of the best owners in the business. I'll say the best owner in the business.
Well, thank you. You're kind, Harry. You're probably a little biased. That's okay.
Now, Mr. Blank, back in 2002, you made a huge decision to purchase the Atlanta Falcons with the vision to one day win a Super Bowl. Now, I hate to do this to you, but I have to fast forward to 2016. Y'all made it to the Super Bowl. The team was up 28-3 to the Patriots. Y'all ended up losing in overtime. But I want you to keep it real with me, Mr. Blank. What was going through your mind as that transpired?
Well, it was, it was the middle of the third quarter, and we were up, 28-3, the 25-point lead. You begin to think, although I've been around the league, this is my 20th year as an owner coming up. 2001 was my first year. So you begin to think that, there's probably no way that we can lose this game. I mean, we really, there's a high probability of us winning it. Looking back later, ESPN said it was a 99-point-something% that we'd win the game, even in the fourth quarter. And, but we found ways to make some mistakes, whether it be, on the field, or coaching mistakes, whatever, it's a combination of things. So the Patriots playing really well at the end of the game, and our defenses were tired. Things happened and we lost the game. So I think that, I immediately went into my father mode. How do I take care of my own family? How do I take care of the family of the extended Falcons? How do I, and so I probably immediately didn't hurt me as much as it had in subsequent years, when you fully realize how hard it is to get back to that. Forget about winning it, just to get back there, to get to a championship game, to win a division championship game, to get to the playoffs, and then through the playoffs and to the Super Bowl is very difficult to do. It's single game elimination. Anything can happen. The ball's not round. So it's a tough thing to do. But so I felt my obligation then was to, be the leader, be the father spirit, if you will, of the organization, and to put as many people under my arms as I could, with my family and our fans and our coaches and our players. But it's a very difficult period of time for sure. One that I definitely wouldn't want to live through again.
I know that's right. The last 3 seasons hasn't been the best. The team has finished under 500 all 3 of those years. Now, this is the 2021 season. Will begin with a new head coach and general manager. How important was it for the Falcons organization to have a culture change going into this year?
Well, I would say this. I mean, I don't think that the culture itself is really going to change. The culture, and we talk about this in the book, Good Company. The culture represents our, what our core values are as an organization. And it's true for football, for soccer, for guest ranching, for concerts, for golf, for foundation work. It's all the same. However, the applications, and the emphasis is different. So the culture will be, pretty much the same, and we do the right things for the right reasons and live with the consequences of doing that. And, that represents a lot of what our culture is, whether people that are associates, the people that we serve, or with the community. So I think, sadly, and you know this as a player, at some point, the coaching staff, they run out of answers. They run out
Yeah.
of new creative ways to approach the players. Their thinking may become stale, may become they're committed to certain past practices which work well at a different point in time, but no longer. Or you have a personnel department that gets set in their ways, and we all love our own children. So, they, through free agency or draft, they pick up players, and we all do that as a team, but they tend to fall in love with them. And they always think, well, they're capable of doing more than what they're probably doing currently. Sometimes that's true, and sometimes it's not true. So I think, you find in an organization, in this case, a football team, it comes a moment in time when you really need to wipe the slate clean and have some fresh perspective on your roster, the way you're going to coach it, the schemes that are being run, what's effective today in the NFL, which is different than what it was years ago. So I think with Coach Smith, Arthur Smith, that well, him better than I know him because he coached you as a player.
I do.
But I've been very impressed with him in my time with him. And Terry Fontenot, who had 18 years in New Orleans, as much as it hurts to say it, but they built a great organization and won a lot of games, won a lot of championships. And, he worked with a very well thought of head coach, Sean Payton, at probably not the easiest coach in the world to work with, but he did and did it effectively. So, we felt we needed some new leadership, and it's never easy because, as you know, Harry, I get close to the coaches and try to get close to the players as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to make a difficult decision like that. It's hard, but it's not as hard as some people think for me because, I put myself in a position, that the fans who support this beautiful game called American football, 32 different cities and a couple thousand players, et cetera. They, at some point they expect the owner to do what the owner should do. So the owner during the season really can't do much. I mean, sitting the fans, rooting, like everybody else, and clapping. But the reality is that it's really up to the coaches and the personnel department and players to make sure we put the best product on the field and we're performing at our highest level. The off season comes and you have the kind of record that you mentioned, then the spotlight kind of switches to the owner. So look at, 3 years, as you well point out, we've had a team that we're not particularly proud of. We're playing okay, but we've had some win streaks in there as well as some losing streaks, but not the kind of championship ball that we promised everybody. So, it's up to me at that juncture to make a decision. Do we want to go forward with the same group, or at some point, a different voice is going to be, we want to hear different voices than what we're currently hearing. And that was the conclusion that we came to this year. I worked with Thomas, general manager at Mitchell, for 13 years, almost 13 years, and great general manager, bright guy, et cetera, done a good job. It's in a lot of ways, and we're drafting some great players, Julio and Matt and others, and Calvin Ridley, yourself. And we've had some really good coaches, and the last couple of coaches we've had, been with us for 6 or 7 years, have done a good job, have won a lot of games. Certainly Coach Smith. Team never had back-to-back winning seasons, never. When I bought the team, that goes back to 1966. So with Coach Smith, we had 5 successive winning seasons. With Coach Quinn, we, had 3, and we went to the Super Bowl. We went to the championship game the year after. We just lost, on a 5-yard play. But, so once you reach that point, though, you think that a change is necessary. You owe it to your fan base to make that difficult decision and do it with respect, do it with kindness. But you owe it to them to make that decision and to move forward. So that's what we've tried to do.
Now, Mr. Blank, you and Rich McKay, y'all chose Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot to be the head coach and the general manager for the Falcons moving forward. As you mentioned already, both of those guys have amazing resumes. They're great leaders. They're great men. Tell me, what's one thing that's unique about those guys that stood out that you haven't mentioned already?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would just say, with Coach Smith, I think if I had to pick out one thing, I think he's got a real sense of humility. And I don't know, I think I think he's very confident about his knowledge and his study and his work, et cetera, but I think he's a very good listener. And I think he truly believes that other coaches and players in particular can bring him a lot of knowledge and bring him a lot of ideas that are important for him to see and understand. So the other thing I would say with the coach is that, he doesn't believe in his expression that he uses in committee speak. There's a different word he uses, but basically sometimes I'll sit in a room like this conference room, may have 5 or 6 people around the room, and each one is waiting to hear what the other person says before they tell you what they think. He doesn't like that. He wants every person to speak their own mind. So if he's, talking to his receivers in Tennessee, where you are, and he wants an opinion about certain thing, I mean, he wants your opinion, Harry, not somebody else's opinion.
That's right.
Same thing with every other player that he's talking with, or every other coach he's talking with. So I really admire that a lot about him. So very bright mind, inquisitive, good listener, wants to stay ahead of the curve, great studier. So there's a lot of things I liked about him, and hopefully you would support all those things too. So if you're not, you can wink at me and I'll call you back later and tell me which things I've missed on. Terry Fontenot, I think, camp in the business, he played football at Tulane. He was captain of their football team. So he's a natural leader in that regard. I don't know if it's natural or not, but he is a leader in that way. The fact that he was so dedicated to one organization for a long period of time and had sustained success there is very important. And he did it, in a variety of ways, on the pro side and the college side, a combination. Frankly, the general manager, Mickey Loomis, after we hired him, Terry, Mickey called me, and it was a private conversation, but basically he loves Terry and thought Terry should eventually take his job. So he was very disappointed that Terry didn't stay, however long that would have been until he decided to retire. But particularly, it shows the respect he had for him. He was very unhappy he stayed in our division because, he knows how good he is at doing what he does. And having to compete against him now is not going to be something that he looks forward to. But, he had nothing but really good things to say about Terry and his ability to lead. He's very inclusive. They've done a fine job in the Saints over a long period of time. One of the things in every institution of business, a football team, is to create, a sustainably winning organization. And that means one that's going to continue to go on. And, if you have, like they've had in New Orleans, they have a great quarterback in Drew Brees. I think he's retired. I think he's going to retire this last year now, but who knows? Maybe he'll change his mind. But point is that, they've continued to develop people around him over time, over this 18-year period, or 12 years that Drew played there, I guess 12, 13 years. So the quality of the play always maintained itself at a very high level. And he was involved in all of that. So it wasn't just like a one-year wonder. A one-year wonder is, it's nice. You win a game, you win several games, you go to the playoffs, maybe even go to the Super Bowl. But I've said to our fans, you want a sustainably winning organization over a long period of time. You want to know that the Atlanta Falcons are a team that are going to be in a competitive mix every year. Maybe not get to the championship every year, but be a team that's going to be formidable, a team that'll be important when you talk about teams in the NFL. And that's my goal. So,
Mr. Blank, I want to thank you for joining the HD Connection. You know how much this meant to me, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Harry. And you know how much you mean to us and here in Atlanta. And your legacy truly does live on, not only as a player, but as a person. Everybody remembers all of the wonderful things that you did and you're still doing, and giving back and always available to help others. So, on behalf of Atlanta, on behalf of humanity, I thank you for being a great role model in that way. And I know your family is very proud of you too. We are.